Today is another one of our refresh days. So I just wanted to welcome everyone to Refresh as we move through our business series talking about refreshing your business and rethinking and we're here with Teresa and Kenric. And I'll turn it over to Teresa.
All right, well, good morning, everybody, and thanks for joining us live this morning, or if you're going to join us on the replay later, we're glad to have you here, and very excited that I get to introduce friend Kenric Lynn. Kenric S. Lynn is an executive director of the John Maxwell team and founder and CEO of Local Noon LLC. Local Noon LLC is a personal and professional development consulting company that provides high-quality, value-added speaking, coaching, and leadership training services. Kenric is certified to facilitate, speak, train, and coach individuals and groups in the areas of leadership development, professional skills, and personal growth. Trained and mentored by John Maxwell and mentors of his world-class faculty, he is equipped with tools, resources, and experience to help you and your team improve your productivity, performance, and profitability. 3 Ps. Whether you are looking for a facilitator for group workshops, corporate training in leadership, speaking, sales, or coaching skills for your leaders, or a speaker for your next event, he has access to exclusive content that is only available through a certified executive director of the John Maxwell team to help you reach your goals and objectives. Kenric retired from the United States Army after 23 years of honorable service to this country. Thank you for your service. He holds a master's degree in business administration with a concentration in entrepreneurship from Trident University. As a regional consultant with Ambit Energy, the world's largest direct seller of energy, and Inc. magazine's fastest growing company in 2010, he uses his entrepreneurial spirit to help families save money and build generational wealth by taking advantage of energy deregulation, which, according to Warren Buffett, will be the biggest transfer of wealth in history. Kenric is a member of the O'Fallon-Shiloh, Illinois Chamber of Commerce and serves as a coordinator for the People in Business Networking Group. He has worked with several local organizations to include the Scott Air Force Base Youth Center, the Muscuda School District, Hoyleton Youth and Family Services, Maryville College, Girl Scout Troop 513, and the Federally Employed Women Mid-America Chapter. Kenric loves to be involved in his community and believes in providing a hand up through volunteerism. He has taught CPR and installed smoke detectors with the Red Cross, completed the O'Fallon Citizen Police Academy, served as a youth mentor with the YMCA's Reach and Rise program, and continues to serve as a fellowship alum with the Mission Continues. Kenric has been happily married to the brilliant and beautiful Chandelette Lynn for the past 20 years. He's a proud father of 6 children who range from 13 to 30 and relishes in the fact that he is also a grandfather of 3 wonderful grandchildren. His mission is to walk alongside you as your personal ally and help you increase your awareness, raise your level of consciousness, and reveal the truths that allow you to grow, thrive, and prosper in the shine of your own light. His passion to help people increase their awareness, discover their purpose, and pursue their dreams is reflected in his personal motto, loving life, inspired to serve, growing every day. And with that, I welcome Kenric Lynn.
Hey, thank you, Teresa. How's everybody doing this morning?
Great.
Todd first. Oh, good. And thank you for doing such a great job, Teresa. I think I'm going to save that clip. And so instead of reading my own bio or having other people do it, I'm just gonna play it. That was perfect.
I feel honored.
Thank you. All right. And Todd, I appreciate you having me on this morning.
No problem.
When I got the text from our friend Alan, I was a little excited because I had seen that you were going to be doing these. And I thought, wow, this is a great opportunity. And then I saw that Teresa was involved. And every time Teresa, we've known each other for how long now? Off and on, about 2 years indirectly. you know, and everything that I've seen and I've heard about you has been great. You know, we've got a couple of mutual friends that I know you've worked with. So if anybody's ever, if you know about Teresa and you've ever been thinking about being on the fence about working with her, I highly recommend it.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
You're welcome. You're welcome. And today we're going to be talking a little bit about leading through adversity or leading through crisis. Okay. And, you know, having been in the military for so long, and it's hard to believe it's been 6 years since I retired, we talked a lot about this. We trained for this, but I understand that people who are not in these types of career fields, law enforcement and things like that, it's not something that you train for. And sometimes we get in these situations and we realize that we were not equipped to handle them. And so when Todd asked me about doing this webinar with him, I thought this would be the perfect opportunity to talk to you about it. Because if you know who John Maxwell is, he is a world-renowned leadership guru of sorts that specializes in leadership. Well, when the coronavirus pandemic started, the Maxwell team, along with John, decided that they needed to take action and that they needed to do something to help people. And they developed this program called Leading Through Crisis. And it talks about how to turn adversity into an advantage. And that's what we're going to be talking about a little bit today. Now, Todd, I have a question for you.
Yeah, go for
So
it.
out of curiosity, how have you and your company, Sivia Law, been dealing with the crisis?
How have we handled it?
Yeah.
First part was shock, and basically go into crisis mode, trying to figure out, what we can and can't do. And then, secondly, once we figured out what we could and couldn't do, we moved to the next level, which is, okay, how does this affect our clients? And evaluate how we can assist. And then third is where were we moving forward? How are we going to move forward? And what kind of environment does that change? Did that change our practice areas? Did that change our business? And for the most part, it really hasn't affected, what we're doing. But I think for a period of time, I think we're going to add a few services additional to it to help the demand that's out there, and then refocus on our core values.
Okay. Teresa, I have the same question for you. How has your business changed, and how have things changed for you since the pandemic started?
Well, I think, kind of what Todd was saying, I went from the shock to the disbelief, and then I really tried to go into denial, but that wasn't working very well for me. So yeah. I think with the first announcement, obviously I was worried about people's health. Yeah. My dad, has a compromised lung issue, and so that scared me, health. And then I, immediately transitioned into the small businesses that were completely shut down. Or partially, and thinking about those owners and their employees, and what could I be lined up to do to help them in the interim and when we get on the other side of this. And then I think about, literally a week to 10 days passed, and when we finally got the stay in place order, I realized I'm a small business. Holy crap! Yeah. What does this mean? And so I've been, in giving spirit, and passing the goodwill to my other business owners. But then it kind of dawned on me, it's like, you need a plan too. Yeah. So otherwise, my current clients, it's business as usual, with them, because I have essential services that I have been working with. So.
Okay. Now, and I know neither one of you knew I was going to ask you that question. But I just wanted to kind of point out that for anybody listening is that while both of you, there were some similarities in how you've pivoted or how you've shifted. Each one of you actually had to take a look at what you were doing and decide what the new reality of your business was going to look like going forward. And oftentimes, especially with small businesses, very rarely will you see stacks and stacks of contingency plans laying around, where someone's actually taken the time to sit down and have those annual retreats where we're talking about, well, what would happen if we had a pandemic and we couldn't go to work every day, or we had to practice social distancing. So
Kenric, on that, I mean, you came to my annual meeting.
Yeah.
Everything we talked about in our annual meeting was thrown out the door as soon as the pandemic hit. So.
And so that's that. I'm glad you mentioned that, Todd, because that's one of the major tenets of leading through crisis or adversities, that really you don't know what the crisis is going to be, and so therefore you have to be able to make some shifts. You have to be fluid and flexible. In the Army, one of the greatest lessons that I learned about dealing with anything was how to adapt and overcome. And so if you would put a chart, almost like a T model, and you had the things I can control on one side and the things I can't control on the other side, the things that you can control list would be very short, right? And so everything kind of happens in the moment. And even now that you've been operating now for 2.5, 3 weeks like this, you're still failing your way forward. And everybody's failing their way forward, whether it's in your business or in your personal life. So one of the things you have to do when dealing with crisis or adversity, again, is to define the new reality, which is a leadership function. Because if you can't do that, then it's going to be like herding cats. The other thing you have to do is really get down into the weeds of who you are and your business and your capabilities. And if we're talking about it on a personal level, knowing who you are is key. Because if you've never been in a situation like this before, you really don't know how you're going to respond. And I know, Todd, we were going to have somewhat of a Q&A session later on. But I'm going to ask, if you want, we can do that now, because some of the things I want to talk about may be addressed in a Q&A, but I want to get to it right now, if that's okay with you.
Sounds great.
Okay. So when we talk about defining crisis, and I meant to ask both of you this, what do you think a crisis is? How do you define crisis?
That's a good question. What is a crisis? Crisis is a momentary issue that has a change of direction.
Okay, very good.
So,
what do you think, Teresa? Oh, I'm sorry, Todd.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, I would just playing off of what Todd said, something unexpected, that unplanned, and most likely unprepared for to handle the situation.
Yeah. So in essence, and it was not about having a right answer. I just wanted to know how you saw it, because how you see it without looking it up is going to determine the actions that you take. We hear it on the news. Oh, we're in crisis. We're in pandemic. We've got adverse situations going on. But the question is, what does that really mean to you, in this case, as a business owner, or to someone who is deemed as someone's leader? Because it's in these definitions that are going to determine, again, what actions that you take. So if we just think about crisis as times of extreme difficulty, sometimes extreme stress, and stress is a big thing that comes up with crisis and dealing with stress. And just to kind of,
I think
yes, sir.
too, one of those things, looking at your character, and I just listened to Dave Ramsey's thought process with regards to PPP money and applying for loans.
Yeah.
He said, it is my core value that I will not get a loan. Doesn't matter if it's free money or not. That is his core values. So, following your core values crisis leads to showing what your true character is. So, let this be the time to build on that. So.
Right. And I'm glad you mentioned that. And this, Todd, as a member of the John Maxwell team, we have something that's called JMT DNA. So when you mention knowing what your core values are, whenever I do these workshops, that's why I always ask people, when was the last time, if your company has a website, when was the last time you actually went out there and read the about page yourself? In the military, we always had the mission statements and things like that in plain sight, because we wanted everybody to be on the same page about why we're doing what we're doing every day. A lot of times it was in big letters that sat right above the door before you walked in, or your motto sat right above the door before you walked in, or maybe it was painted on a rock outside. But most small businesses, a lot of times, if they do have them, it's there, but it's obscure. And when I say small business in this case, I'm talking about someone that has a brick and mortar organization where you can actually walk into and they service customers and clients on site. And then we think about that for someone like you and I, Teresa, who basically work from home, when we are a one person show, but we still have our core values readily available for us, even though we wrote them and we know what they are. But we follow our own process of making sure that we always know why we're doing what we're doing. And so just to share something with you, we have something called the JMT DNA, where they've actually outlined these core values for us, so that if you consider yourself a member of the team, you have an idea of what that means as far as your character goes. And Todd, you put it perfectly, that crisis will expose your character, right? And one of ours is adding value to people. We've got modeling consistency. We've got equipping others, lead and lift others, and demonstrating a positive attitude, just to name a few. But these actually come in handy, not just for the Maxwell team, but your core values come in handy when it comes time to make business decisions. It comes in handy when you're not the person in charge, but you're working directly with a customer or a client, right? Am I modeling what it means to be a member of Sivia Law? Am I representing Sivia Law the way Todd wants me to? And so I always hit home, and you may remember this from the workshop, Todd, that I did ask about that, because I think it's important for people to get involved, because if we all know why we're in the boat, and we all know what direction we need to be rowing the boat in, when we get in situations like this, in crisis mode, we have our base. Now it just decides, well, if we got to row the boat, and we all agree that we're going to row the boat in the same direction. We just need the direction now, because the other part of dealing with crisis is change. And I know a lot of people right now have taken a knee. Now, for whatever reason, this is not good or bad. And I say take a knee, meaning they've gone into a place to where they're not really working to grow their businesses. They want to maintain because they're more worried about losing. But if you study a little bit of business history, this is where the seeds for a lot of companies that are household names were started, in adversity. I believe it was Coca-Cola, sugar water. It basically was a result of someone taking some action way back when, during one of the wars. So it's not about taking advantage of people, but it is about saying, hey, there's things going on out there circumstances has changed, the environment has changed, but I'm still growing because you don't know how long this is going to last. So are you going to sit and wait for it all to be over? Or are you going to continue to grow?
Yeah, and Kenric, I mean, if you look at it, I mean, this is the greatest opportunity for growth.
Yes.
And it's one of the things that I've probably mentioned to multiple people. This is a time to, there's a lot of people that are hurting right now, and they're looking at closing up shop. But if you need to be actually changing your focus and saying, where's the need in the market?
Yes.
Where are we missing? And look at expansion. So changing it on its head and moving forward, gives you an opportunity to. That's why this is an opportunity for you to refresh, and reset and go.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. And I was going to mention that too. I mean, this is. Had we not had the crisis, would we be sitting here on your webinar right now?
No.
So again, we have to shift and we have to pivot, right? But we have to believe that we can. Yes, Teresa, go ahead.
Yeah, I was saying, pivot is the word of the day. Now, we can't go through a day without hearing it. But one of my fellow coaches had said, there's luxury in a crisis, because it does give us that pause, that time to think and reflect and change as needed. So.
Yes. Yeah, there's that power of the unknown. Everybody's stumbling now. So now we don't feel left out when we fall, because everybody, again, we're failing our way forward. And one of the books that John Maxwell wrote, I believe it was the year before last, was called Leadership, right? And where he talks about the 11 essential shifts that he believes leaders should make. And it's interesting that he used the word leadership and not just change, because again, leader shifting is kind of catchy, but he wanted to explain it in a different way. And we're all, again, failing our way forward. And so I want to share something with you from an experience that I had back in 2001 on September 11th. And this has stuck with me for years. And this is my experience with dealing with what I call a huge crisis. So I used to be stationed at Fort Meade, Maryland. Seems like so long ago. But I was a satellite communications operator maintainer by trade. I don't call that SATCOM going forward. And I was considered the senior enlisted person on the site. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with the military, we've got officers and we've got enlisted personnel. I was on the enlisted side, and on site, I was the senior ranking enlisted person. Well, the position that I was in was actually built for someone of a higher rank or higher grade than I was. And while the command that I was under was satisfied with my performance, I understood why they wanted to, bring in someone who was of the correct pay grade, which is not normal. I mean, which is not out of the ordinary. And so one of our sister organizations had they were top heavy on the enlisted side, and they actually had someone who could fill that position. And so they brought the individual down, and this happened to be maybe 2 weeks before September 11th. And he was getting a lay of the land, and we actually had a good relationship. And don't let my story make you think that this is about bashing anybody, because I love the guy, and we got along. On September 11th, we happened to have a major training event that was going on the site. And so when it happened, we got word that things were going on in New York and at the Pentagon, the commander called us all into the office. And again, me being still being the senior person in charge, he had given me certain instructions that everybody heard. And so when I went out to carry these out, I put everybody into a classroom. I gave them their instructions. We had to send we had some contractors on site. We had to send them back to their hotels until further notice. And as everybody was walking out and I came out of the classroom, I saw some other people walking back in. And some of them looked a little disgruntled. And a few of them came up to me and I asked them, where what are you doing? And they said, well, this other person told us we needed to get back inside. And I said, why? And he said, we don't know. So we all go back inside the classroom, and he felt the need to lay down the law, where he was kind of tried to throw his rank around. And when I say throw his rank around, he mentioned it. He said, I'm of this rank and you will listen to me. And wasn't well received by, the troops in this case, but they were professionals and they said, okay, got it. And there were a couple of other things where he thought he was making the right decisions that he didn't clear with the command first. And so I had a couple of people on site come up to me and they expressed their concern, because this was a situation where no one, we could have been next, was someone going to try to commit an act of terrorism where we were. Because if you've ever been to Maryland, Fort Meade is only a 25 minute drive on a good day to Virginia. And a lot of people were concerned. Some people were afraid. And one of the things that they said to me sticks with me. They said, Sergeant, he makes me even more afraid. I can't follow him because I don't believe that he knows what he's doing. And so, long story short, the command actually ended up sending him back to his old unit. Because in this moment of crisis, he was not able to be that rock that people wanted him to be, even though he thought that he was. And so that's why I said earlier, you're never really prepared for things like this until you have experiences, or until you really get to know who you are and what your values are, and actually how you're going to operate under pressure. And so, and that was part of the reason why they wanted to bring him in, because while I was a senior guy, this other gentleman had more experience in the field than I did, which again, I said was fine. But when the crisis hit, people came to me. And I was told it was because I was able to maintain a calm demeanor and that I made everybody else feel like they could trust my decisions, that I wasn't going to panic, and that I could understand where they were coming from, to the point to where whatever was going on no longer bothered them. And so I want to ask Todd or Teresa, before the pandemic started, had operated your businesses in times of crisis such as this before?
I think 2008 was kind of a critical time.
Yeah.
And I think I'm trying to think. I think there was like 2 times that within our business that we had to either change direction or change focus, but not to this extent. I mean, this is unprecedented. I don't think anybody's ever seen anything like this ever before. So,
yes. Now, and Todd, before you answer Teresa, Todd, I want to ask you, since you do have employees. How does it feel knowing that they're looking to you to help get not only yourself and your family through, but to keep the business going?
It's critical. You know, I sat down with my kids probably about 2 or 3 weeks ago and explained to them. I said, you know, I've got over, if you add up all the tenants and everything else like that I've got going,
Yeah.
I've got 40 to 50 people sitting on my back, and I've got to keep it together for those people. It's not about me. It's about the people that are on my back, you know, the family members, because if I don't pay an employee, you know, I'm going to be fine. I'm going to, you know, I'm creative enough. I can live through this, but I'm worried about my employees. I'm worried about my tenants. I'm worried about everybody else. I can get through it. It's everybody else, but that added stress that's on you at that point in time, it's huge.
Yeah.
So.
Okay. Now, what is your best way of coping with that? What has been working for you?
Work.
Work. So staying active, staying busy, staying engaged.
Huh?
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I mean, I'm probably working harder now that I've been, you know, doing the extras.
Yeah.
Just, you know, providing as much value to others, you know, because I mean, you know, if I look at my clients, I mean, you know, I don't take on as much of the burden for the clients, but I feel the clients, you know, I'm fielding calls all, you know, at least the first 2 weeks I was fielding calls. There's no way I was going to bill them for any of that time. Because, you know, they're in crisis mode. They don't need to receive a bill from their attorney dealing with their crisis. So, you know, I'm focused in on how can I help them weather through the storm, and then we'll talk about, okay, what, you know, I want them to grow and expand so I can bill them.
Compassion first, business second, right? Now what about you, Teresa?
Now, it's just starting out my business, you know, the beginning of 2015. So this is the first time that I'm experiencing it, you know, from the business side, you know, obviously, and the corporate side, you know, I've been through it, you know, several times, you know, there, but yeah, it is completely different. And I will agree with Todd, the hours are longer, and I think carrying the weight, you know, I always say that with my clients, that whenever, you know, they're going through tough times or having challenges to figure out, I carry that heavy on the heart, you know, that it's not, it becomes, you know, a personal as well as a business, you know, relationship. And so doing that now, and exactly the same as Todd which is why, you know, we wanted to partner and do this series, is to give back and to be there and know that have people, our clients, our prospects, everybody know that we're there to help, and this isn't a time to send you a bill.
Yeah, good. Thank you for that. And I was actually going to ask you about I knew you came from have a corporate background, and it's a little obviously a little different for you now.
Yes, it was easier when you were figuring out the crisis while the paycheck was still coming.
Yes, absolutely. Now, Todd, how much time did you have set aside for Q&A?
About 25 minutes.
Okay. Did you want to start that now, or?
Yeah, we can.
Okay.
Does anybody have any questions out there?
You can type into
go ahead. You can either raise your hand or send in a question.
And so while we're waiting for someone to respond, Teresa, you said something that made me think about something that's very important to establish even before a crisis starts. So one of the lessons that I learned from Maxwell is that people, we'll call them, I say, well, they're children, anybody that looks at you for leadership, right? There are always three things that everybody wants from their leaders, the three things that they need to know. One of those is, can you help me? The second one is, do you care for me? And the third one is, can I trust you? If you haven't established these things before crisis, it's going to be difficult during a crisis that much more.
Completely agree.
Yes, I talk to a lot of people with teenagers, and when teenagers we all get there, we get to a certain age, and for whatever strange reason under the sun, I don't know, some universal reason, we decide that our friends are better people to listen to than our parents. Maybe there's some type of scientific formula to figure that one out. I don't know. But typically the teenagers are kind of, for whatever reason, they look at their friends as someone who that answers those three questions for them. I know my teens that I've had, we've hit those teen years, and now that I look back on it, I say, you know what? At some point in time, I don't know, for whatever reason, there came times where they didn't look at me as the person that could help them anymore, like they did when they were 5, or the person that they could trust, or the person that cared about them, because all I ever wanted to do was tell them what to do, And when you think about that at work, sometimes when you have difficulty with work employees, when there's conflict at work, or negative conflict at work, it usually has something to do with someone not feeling that they're getting those three things from somebody else. So it's just something to think about while we're in this crisis, because John even talks about in one of his lessons about leading through crisis, that it's in the middle of crisis where you actually learn truly who you are and what kind of character your organization has and how resilient you are in the crisis. You actually have to be in the middle of it. Because once you get into the middle of it and you're raising your level of awareness and you start working your way out of it, right, that's when you know, okay, now I got it. Now I understand who we are. Now I understand what processes we need to put into place in case something like this happens again. So now anybody tried to buy webcams recently? Thought you wanted to upgrade your webcam because now everybody's online and you want the clearest video? Well, good luck with trying to find one. I think one of the most popular ones is the Logitech 920, I think. At Christmas, you can buy them for about $50, at Amazon. Now, because no one has them, there's people out there, yeah, they'll sell it to you for a cool $300, But now everybody knows, okay, if you've been one of those people who have been reluctant to get on board with technology and not stay 2 steps behind technology, you're finding out that it's tough now. When everybody went to smartphones and you still have a flip phone and you can't join the webinars with everybody else, it's challenging. And so a crisis also forces you to change, right? And most of the time we won't change unless we're forced to. And a crisis will force you to change. But the question is, are you going to be fluid and flexible enough to change? Are you going to be resilient enough to actually want to adapt and to overcome? What were you going to say, Todd?
I was going to say, I've been looking for a webcam because I keep on breaking it.
Now, we will have to have another refresh lesson on that so you can tell us how that works. How do you break a webcam? Consistently break a webcam? I don't know.
Well, it's my looks,
Oh.
It's the coronavirus hairdo,
That's what's
Yeah, I've got it too. Yeah, I got it too. I have my hat on. It's the first time I've actually put it on since I hadn't gotten a haircut in the past month. So when I put it on, I realized, man, this hat fits. Why is it so tight? So, oh, I've got this extra inch of hair on top of my head now. So again, we'll change when we're forced to change, and nothing forces you to change like crisis. Right?
Got a question?
Yes.
The question is, I have a number of employees who most were laid off or down to part-time. How can we, as leaders, help our employees pivot when they come back to work?
Ooh, great question.
So when I was in the military, and great question, thank you, by the way. When I was in the military, anytime we completed a training event or exercise, we had something that was called an AAR, which was an after action review. And I think one of the things that you could do is to actually sit down and talk to people in terms of an after action review. And what after action review is where we sit down and we talk about what was supposed to happen, what did happen, what went right and what went wrong, and how can we make it better the next time. So if you happen to be working in an organization where this is new for everybody. And so now one of the best things we can do, and so that we don't dwell on the past, is talk about how to move forward. And one of the best things you can do is get everybody involved. Now, I don't remember the question. Did it say how many people were in the organization?
There was about 26.
26 people in the organization. I think it would be feasible to actually involve everybody in this AAR and you allow people to talk about their feelings and what they were going through. And I know even though it's at work, people need to be free to express themselves in such a way that they're understood. Because I always ask people when we do training, we think we're good at compartmentalizing everything, where we believe we have our work self, and then we have our home self, and then we have our man cave self and our she shed self and all these other kinds of things. But really, wherever you go, all of you goes there. And when I say all of you, I mean your life, your experiences. If you believe in being who you are, no matter what, all of that goes with you. And so when we're at work, leaders need to acknowledge that, and they need to make sure that they offer people the opportunity or say the platform sometimes to talk about things in terms of how they see it. Because sometimes we think that we have all the answers, or because we have final say so, our answers are the only ones that matter, or our perspective is the only one that matters. But this is something, in this case, that impacted not just work, but it's impacted my life. At home, who knows what type of stress they were under at home. And so again, I think it goes back to those three questions. If I was a leader, I'd be asking, how can I show the people that I partner with, they're my employees, but how can I show them that I do care about them, that it's not that because I had to lay them off and furlough, that I'm not only interested in the money, because sometimes you had to lay people off just so you could keep the business operating, so the business would be there when they came back. Because what would be, worse than having to lay people off and then still having to close the business up and not being able to help them. So you have to make these tough decisions, but to be able to sit down and have these conversations with the people that count on you, with your employees, I think is key. I think that's probably the first step. Now, I don't know the nature of your business. And again, I don't know the people. So the only way to know what people want is to ask them. Because if they don't tell you, you're just speculating. So I think a real candid conversation needs to happen with the people in this organization whenever they can't go back to work. If they can, and even if they can't, I think too, if you've laid somebody off because you've had to, I still think that you should maintain some type of connection with them, relationship with them, so that you can help them. So if you're a business, right, you've got a lot of, chances are you got a few B2B relationships. And I'm pretty sure in those relationships, in this case, during a crisis, you probably know someone that's still operating, that still needs help. And so I think that that's something that you can do, but I think it's a question of asking yourself, well, what can I do to help this individual when I can't offer them employment or a paycheck? What else can I do? Right now, even if you've got an organization of 150, 500 people, you should still be asking yourself that question, so that you never, in my opinion, I've never owned a large company or business with employees, but I never want people to come in and feel like whenever they leave, it was just, oh, okay, hey, thanks for coming out, have a nice life. I think in all cases, you love people in and you love them out.
Todd, do you have a follow-up? I'm getting a text from one of our participants that said that they sent in a question that provided more detail for those.
Yeah,
for the question.
there's a little bit more detail. They're launching. They're going to do a basically their business 2.0 relaunch to implement several changes to policies and procedures, both because of the virus as well as things that we wanted to do that we didn't have time to do.
Mm.
So they're bringing these. It's the same person, so they're bringing these 26 people back, and they're going to basically change up their business. So,
okay.
Do you have any comments towards how to do that, or ways to do that?
Because it's your business, and it's again, I can't give you those answers about something that I don't know about, but it sounds like you have a plan. So I think in the development and the building out of that plan, let's just say I don't know how the business was structured, but if you've got levels of supervision, I think this is an opportunity to take advantage of for those who still want to come back. It's an opportunity to involve them in building out this launch, so that not only so that you give people skin in the game, but you're extending trust. We're rebuilding here, and I trust you enough to help me rebuild, in essence, my business or our business, however you want to look at it. But I think the more you can involve people in whatever process that you're implementing, the better. Now, again, I don't know what the individual's decision makers' leadership style is. I don't know what their relationships were like with the workforce before this. But I think it's definitely worth staying in contact with people, continuously let them know what's going on, and again, provide them with the opportunity to participate more feasible. Because if they've been laid off, and let's just say they had to go and get another job, right now you have to wonder, well, when this is all over, are they going to want to come back? And I think that's something where you need to make time to have conversations. And again, small businesses, you can pick up, it's, I don't want to make it about the size, but you can pick up the phone and call anytime you want to check on people.
Sure.
Yeah.
So Another one that came in, mental health. How does mental health impact your business or your decision making?
Okay. So I have to put this out there. I'm not a mental health expert. I'm not a counselor or a doctor. You know, I'm not your fiduciary. You know, but mental health is a big one. And what I can speak on though is stress. I think sometimes we forget that in times of crisis, that the things that we did to manage stress before become that much more important. And stress management is about three things: proper rest, proper nutrition, proper exercise. And sometimes in times of crisis, because we did this in the military, Todd, you said it earlier about staying busy. We always had something called keep people gainfully employed. If we can keep you busy and industrious, there's just something about that that keeps you from wallowing in the corner, you know. And I don't mean to put anybody down. I just, but that was kind of the way we looked at it in the military. But I think even in times of crisis, say that again, Teresa.
I'm sorry, but that's when I work with clients, rechanneling that energy, because doing the worrying doesn't help anything. But if you're doing something, you can feel a forward movement.
Yes, because worry is about things that have happened or things that you don't know are going to happen. You know, so we're all victims of the stories that we tell ourselves. And there's nothing more tragic than the stories that come from times of worry, doom and gloom, you know. So I think with leading through crisis when it comes to stress management, I think it's more about consistent sleep, consistent, you know, rest, consistent exercise, meaning find a way to continue, like you said, Teresa, moving forward on a daily basis. But the most important thing about mental health and dealing with crisis is that there are people out there to help you, right? And so if you think that you're having mental health challenges, reach out to a mental health professional. If you are a friend of someone or a coworker, let them know that there are people that can help them. Don't try to be, unless you're qualified, don't try to be somebody's self-appointed personal counselor or mental health expert. I do have a certificate from the Mental Health Institute on mental health first aid. But what do you think they teach you in there? They teach you how to identify mental health challenges so that you can help people go get help from the right places. Not so I can jump in and actually diagnose and treat myself. Right. So that's the biggest thing. If you believe that you're having mental health challenges, definitely seek help. There are plenty of ways to seek help. Tell somebody.
All right. Here's another question. What would you advise a leader to do in a crisis when they can't stop spinning, but need to order to focus on their business and the team?
So you said they can't stop spinning?
Yeah. So, you know, I think it's like, you know, if things are moving really fast and you really can't focus, you know, things are changing so quickly.
Okay. First thing I would ask is, what are your priorities? What are your business priorities? So since we've changed, you know, we're in this state of change, I would take a look at what the business priorities were before and take a look at what are they now. A lot of times people who ask that question don't have priorities in order. They're confused about what's most important. So you have to decide what's most important. But what I would say, especially in times like this, again, times of crisis, talking to somebody like Teresa would be huge. So just like when I was mentioning, if you were thinking we have mental health challenges, right? There are professionals who are out there that can help you with this, right? And I think that, especially with small business owners, when we get into this and we want to conserve resources, in this case, money, right? We don't Personal growth will go out the window a lot of times as a first budget cut. But I think coaching becomes hugely important right now, because when you think about your coach as your ally, this is the person that will help you go inside, right? So a lot of times in these crisis, leaders will try to go external. And what I mean is they go looking for a process. Give me a process. Give me a different way of doing it. But what we really need to do is just, time out. Let's sit down and have a conversation. Let's talk about what you're feeling. And let's talk about, well, what do you think the right answer is? Without having, if the obstacles weren't there, what would you do right now? Or what would you want your leaders to do for you right now if you were in your employee's position? And so I think the biggest thing that you can do is to sit down with somebody who's trained in coaching, and that's why I mentioned Teresa, to help you get to these answers. Because I believe that the answers are always inside you. They might be muddled up in the stress of the situation, right? But I mentioned earlier with my experience at Fort Meade, you've got to get a handle again on yourself. And when you say you can't stop spinning, the first question I was asked is, well, what does that mean? Tell me what spinning means. What does that really mean? Because right now, without talking to the individual, I don't know what that means to you. I can speculate, but until I really know what that means to you, I don't know what the next question to ask you is. So I think you need to really, if you haven't, take the time to actually find somebody who's trained in coaching and help you get a handle on you. And again, I'm not a psychologist or a counselor, because sometimes people find out that there's some underlying things. The other thing that would be helpful is a behavioral assessments. These things are huge. Anybody, this, Teresa, if you've ever done most people know them as personality assessments, behavioral assessments, DISC assessments. There are all kinds of other companies out there. Taking this assessment gives you a snapshot of your style and your tendencies. Right? So had you done this before, because I talk to people all the time, and maybe I should have brought this up before, but these assessments, again, identify your style. They don't put you in a box, but they help identify your style. But they also help you identify your motivations, challenges that you have with other styles, how you respond under stress, right? So when I talk to people about these assessments and they say, oh, I did that before, I was some kind of DISC, I don't know. And I say, well, wait a minute now, it's a tool, right? It wasn't meant for you to just go and have fun with, like you fill out a crossword puzzle and then just toss it in the drawer. This is a tool for you to refer to, because sometimes what we miss is the opportunity to take that, to look at ourselves, and this kind of gives us a chance to look at ourselves. And when we can look at ourselves, we can grow our awareness about ourselves. Because if you didn't understand how you're going to respond under stress before the crisis hit, it's just as big of a surprise to you as it is everybody else. And if everybody else is looking at you to be that rock, and when I say rock, I mean that solid foundation of trust, a source of help, somebody that I know that actually cares about me, it's going to be hard to get people to follow you, especially if you're, the business owner. And again, sometimes the business owners are always the leader, right? So that's another thing that if I would add that to the list in preparing for crisis next, is actually understanding who's in the supervisory roles, who's in the management roles, who's really doing the leading, who are the most influential people in the organization. Because if you think about leadership in terms of just being influenced, everybody influences someone. So there are certain situations where I need a different type of influence in a certain area than I need over here, where I don't necessarily need authority. I need trust. And so if I know Bob typically influences so-and-so at a meeting because I watch before they answer a question, before Sarah answers a question, she looks at Bob. So that tells me that Bob probably, even though Bob's not our supervisor, they've been having conversations about this before. So Bob is probably an influencer over Sarah, you know. And so these are things too, as the leader and heads of your organizations, the things that you need to be building your skills on and picking up on, because the better you are at people, the better you're going to be at growing your business, or helping the people to help you grow your business are going to be, you're going to be better at that, you know. So but for this one, the best way I know to help people gain clarity, gain more focus, is through coaching.
So, well, thank you, Kenric. We've reached 9 o'clock, and we definitely want to be respectful of everybody's time today.
Yes, absolutely.
So I want to extend my appreciation for you being here today and presenting. And for all those that are on or have been on, we're continuing the series next week, starting Tuesday. We'll go Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and then we'll start into the reset mode. So again, thank you for your time, and thank you, Kenric, for your presentation. That we really appreciate it.
All right, thank you, Todd. I appreciate it.
From all of us, thank you very much, and we'll see you next week.